I love that I'm using a 1976 projector to hold up a video camera.
Yeah, you should get like a camera.
I love that you have a video.
I should get a classroom that actually has a camera in it already.
Yeah, or that.
Or that, yeah. Oh, that's better. Gesundheit, whoever that was. Okay, my awesome friends, let's chat. You probably don't remember this, and that's okay, because it's been since last Wednesday. But we were looking at a data set last Wednesday, which is now outdated, because a bunch of you have done more quizzes. So this, when we looked at it first, was the number of quizzes all my Math 105 students had done up to that point that I collected this data. So in other words, 9 kiddos had no quizzes left to do. 5 had 1, 9 had, and so forth and so on and so forth and so on. Remember this data from last class? You can say no, it's so it was 120 hours ago or some ridiculous thing. Okay, and then we looked at one way of showing the data. And here's one way to show it is using a pie chart. This was the first type of pie chart we looked at. Nobody liked this one, if I remember correctly. People actually did not like this one at all. Remember why they did? This is the same data as this, just FYI. That and that are the exact same data. Do you remember why you didn't like this? Oh, I like that answer. Bella, was that you? I like that answer a whole lot. That's not the answer I was expecting, but I love it.
I just don't like the way it looks.
I love that. It's because there are 11 different options. Maybe a pie isn't the best way of looking at this. I like that answer a whole lot. Good. Another reason you didn't like it. Oh, go ahead, Bella. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you showed us the one about prison statistics though, which is way more than 11, but I liked that.
But you liked that one. So it's not necessarily that it's just the 11. It's the 11 and lacking maybe enough detail, which I was expecting. I think a lot of you, I'm not saying you have to like pie charts. Oh, Dawn, if I remember correctly, you don't like pie charts. Is that correct? No, Dawn, I thought somebody didn't like, somebody in this room, maybe it was the other class,
I don't
didn't
like 'em.
like pie charts.
I don't like them.
You don't like them, Dawn. You don't, I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
So, but the kind of venom towards them was a little bit alleviated when I did this, but still don't like them, and that's totally fine. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying that something like that is not a very good indication of what the hell's going on. Now, you can add numbers to it. We also discussed the dangers of making them 3D, and don't you ever pull this crap or I'll come find you. But pie charts in and of themselves, as Bella just said, when we looked at the prison one, and y'all found the updated prison one, which was really cool. That was super fun, finding the updated prison one, because then we could look at what happened from 2018 to 2019 and start asking questions like, oh, why did that happen? Why are they different? So they're not always necessarily bad things, but there are other ways to look at data. So I'd like to explore some of those today with you all. Okay, so we looked at some pie charts. Here is the exact same data from before. Quizzes that we need to do before the end of the term. But this is called a bar graph, or a bar chart, or a column. Excel calls them like 16 different things. There's histogram, there's bar chart, there's column chart, bar chart, bar graph. How do we feel about this versus, I'm gonna give us some options. Okay, here's raw data. This is what it all started with. This is the numbers I pulled out of Excel. Here's a T-chart. So all this is it's this data, whoops, it's that data, but it's organized so there's nothing's repeated. There aren't 9 zeros up there. There are now 9 instances of 0, as opposed to literally having 9 zeros. So Dawn, do you like this? You don't like it, you like the raw data.
No, I hate the raw data. Now I like the pie chart though.
Okay, I'm not saying, you can change your mind.
I don't like that second one, the bar graph, because, or the one, right after the raw data.
You don't like this?
I don't like that one anymore because it's more about the
You don't like the percentage?
I want it to be in order.
Oh! Can we come back to that in just a couple minutes?
You can,
You want, in other words, you don't like the fact that 15, 15, 11, 13, you've got big numbers all mixed in with small numbers. So thank you for this, by the way. If you take data, the reason this data is quantitative doubling. In other words, there's a number of quizzes you have left to do, and there's also a number of you that have that many quizzes left to do. So I feel like when I graph this, let me go back to the bar chart real quick if you would, Dawn. I love this point, by the way, it's fantastic. When I graph this chart using a bar chart like this, I feel that I should have this axis in increasing or decreasing order because that's how we read graphs, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when you read an X and Y axis, they generally start at 0 and then go up and out from there. I totally get what you're saying. We can bend that rule if we don't have numbers down here. If we have, for example, I mean, the next one we're gonna look at has countries down there. And if you can bend that rule with what are called non-numerical or qualitative data, you can put it in any order you want because there's no ordering of language, there's just an ordering of numbers. So I take your point, I like it a whole lot, thank you.
Okay, you're
Thank
welcome.
you. So, is this, let me ask a loaded question. Is a bar graph better or worse than a pie chart in this instance? So here's a bar chart, and this is a loaded question because not everybody has to answer the same. You can answer yes or no depending on how you feel. There's a bar chart. Here is probably our favorite pie chart with the same data. This is the one that I think you all hated the least. Nobody liked that one because there were no labels, it was confusing. I think we were okay with this one. And literally, this one here shows the exact same data as that column chart. Here, I'll put them side by side. Let me do this. I'll take this, copy it, I'll bring it down here, and I'll put them side by side. Smaller so it fits. There we go. How do we feel? What do you think? How do we feel? Which one do you like better? Bar chart's better?
Yeah.
And tell me why, if you don't mind, Fiona.
I feel
I'm with you, just FYI, I'm with you too.
more difficult to gauge the difference between the sizes when it is around, like when it's like angles.
That's a very, absolutely true. That's a very, very common complaint about pie charts is the specificity of, like for example, when I'm looking at this chart, even if I didn't put the numbers here,
You would count.
you can tell this is twice as big as that. Even if I didn't have the numbers 3 and 6 on there, you could tell. You could also tell this is 3 times as big as that. Because you could actually take your fingers and go like, okay, so that's 3, 6, 9. Like you could literally like put a ruler on it. Now, you could put a ruler on a pie chart. It's just not a straight ruler that you used to use, and it's called a protractor. You have to measure angles. And who the hell uses those anymore? Nobody uses protractors anymore, not since you were in geometry class probably. So I think for ease of like comprehension, I do think bar charts have an advantage, and especially in this case. Christian, what are you thinking?
I was going to say it also looks neater, like with the more information that's given. It just looks
You know,
neater about
and
having all
thank
those
you for that,
colors.
Christian. That's really good. More information that's given in kind of a neater way.
Yeah.
Did you notice how it's only one color across the whole thing where the pie chart, and this is an Excel thing. I didn't change these colors. I literally just let Excel pick the colors. When it made the pie chart, it decided to put those 10 colors in. But when I made the bar chart, it colored them all red. And I wonder if that in and of itself is easier to look at, just the fact that it's one solid uniform color. I don't know, I'm thinking out loud. Because you could actually go into Excel and color every bar differently if you wanted to.
Right.
If you wanted to, I'm not saying if you would, but if you wanted to. So Christian, I like that. I like that a whole lot actually, thank you. Fiona, go ahead.
This is very brief. Color psychology tells us that some colors are perceived as having more to them. So if you look at that, the blue might seem like it has more to you, and like
Oh, that's
like
interesting.
things. I did a paper on that a couple times.
And so here's another question. I got 2 questions for you actually. First of all, is putting those colors in white numbers versus the black numbers, is that messing with people psychologically?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think it just might be hard to. It's still hard to read that with the red one, but like,
It is. I'm not looking at it. This looks terrible, right? That's a 6.
Yeah.
It should be in white probably.
it might be that
stand
they
out.
notice those ones first.
That's exactly, which would be a downfall, I think, of having these graphs. Maybe a better thing would be to put the numbers out on the outside. I actually just recently went to last May, May. There's a guy, and what the hell's his name? Hang on. Shit, I forget his name now. But he's a guy that writes books, like actual like books, not websites but books, on displaying graphics effectively. Like stuff like this.
Mhm.
Like you're not allowed to like use pie charts in this guy's talks. You have to go in like all of creative ways. I went to his talk thinking like this guy, I've read his books for years and I love what he has to say. I'm so pumped to go meet this guy and hear what he has to say, his new stuff. Literally, he did, you ever have a college class where a person walks in with a textbook and reads it to you over the course of 2 hours? Or reads off PowerPoints to you for 2 hours? Literally, I was supposed to be there all day with this guy. I made it 20 minutes and I drove to Portland. And I made it 20 minutes, and I'm like, oh, sweet Mary, mother of all that's holy, he's reading his textbook that I've already read multiple times back to me. I was so pissed. Because I was so hopeful, because I'm going to learn all this great stuff about like good ways to display information, and literally I drove myself to Portland and back for 20 minutes and listened to this guy trying to sell me his book that I already had and read from it to me. And I was so pissed. I was so let down by that. But anyway, point being is you have to think about stuff like that when you're creating data displays. Make sure that what you see is what you want the audience to see. And that's the thing, sometimes we make assumptions. This is one of the things I learned from him. You make an assumption about what you've created that might not necessarily be true about who's in your audience. Very, very good, very, very good. Cool, making sense? Dawn, this one's for you. This one's for you. Okay, no, not this one. This one's for you. Let's look at this one now next. Sorry, the next one's for you, actually. Here's an example of a bar chart I just pulled offline about a week and a half ago. So take a look at that bar graph up there. Can you tell if you just look at the graph itself what's going on? It's totally fine if you can't. I couldn't either.
No.
You can't. Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. Look at the link. Look at the link down here. This is the link I pulled it from. www.pollen.com. You know what? Let's go there right now. Let's see what the updated pollen count looks like. There we go. Here's what it looks like today.
Pollen.
This is the graph for today. Today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and so forth. 5-day pollen forecast. Say that again.
That's helpful.
It's more helpful, a little bit more. At least it's more helpful than just seeing the graph with a bunch of numbers and dates on it. Good. So that's a little more helpful because now you have some context. But what's still not helpful? I would argue there's still something that's not helpful about this graph. Bella, go ahead.
I don't know what the numbers mean.
Nor did I!
So 9.7 what?
Exactly. So now I know it's about pollen. Do we have any allergy sufferers in this room?
Oh,
This entire row. Oh my God, look at that. Yeah, me too. I got allergy tested years ago. I decided to finally get some allergy shots. I'm gonna go get allergy shots. It's gonna make me feel better. Well, so I went to get tested,
I like to.
and that I know, and I think I'm the one person at 100 that they didn't work for. So I started taking allergy shots, and they said, I ride my bike everywhere. You know this. So I rode to my first appointment at the allergy clinic over on 3rd Street, and the guy was like, I noticed you pulled up on your bike. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you can't get an allergy shot and then ride home on a bicycle. I'm like, well, why? Is it like, did your legs go numb? Like he said, no. You can actually have a systemic reaction from the increased circulation. And I'm like, oh, that's such crap. And he's like, just trust me. So I rode my bike home, got my wife's pink scooter, rode that up there instead. And I got my allergy shot and went home, didn't think anything of it. Went back 6 months later, got the next one, rode the scooter again. And then the third one I got, which was, I guess, a year in, I had it all planned out. I was going to get my allergy shot and then go pick our son up at daycare. I think he was 2 at this point, 2 or 3, maybe 4, somewhere in that age group where he wasn't old enough to go to preschool. And he went to a daycare in like next neighborhood over from ours, so I got my shot, rode the scooter over, and he was down the driveway. He's like, Daddy! And he starts running towards me, so I got off the scooter and I ran down the driveway. And by the time I got to him, my throat had closed.
What?
Like it was like, and I'm like, and I managed to like slow down and get enough air in so I didn't pass out and die. But I was like, holy shit, they're not messing around with this. You'll have a systemic reaction if you do any physical activity. It's something like within 2 hours after the shot or something like that. So that was the first like kind of like, okay, this is serious. This is serious crap. And then another one happened about a year later. I was just sitting, I got an allergy shot, took the scooter home, and then was sitting at the dinner table, and my throat closed up just sitting at the dinner table. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I can't. The symptoms I have are not as bad as this weird side effect I'm getting. And the doctor told me, he's like 2 in 100 people are like you. Like they just have such serious reactions to the allergy shots that they're not worth getting. So I just, snort Nasacort during March and April and call it good, pretty much. But yeah, this doesn't help me though. What the hell do these numbers mean? I mean, is today a good day? Kinda. I mean, it says green, it says low, but what does that number mean? See, this is where this chart, to me, this is written for an audience I'm not a part of yet. In other words, it's low, but I want to know, like Bella said, 2.41. So I did a little more digging. Because sometimes, speaking of allergies, I did a little more digging. And this is what I found on their website as I kind of poked around. So take a look at that. Read that for me. The last sentence is the important one to me, I think.
Yeah.
So it is expressed in grains of pollen per cubic meter over a 24-hour period. So here's what you have to think of. Envision a cubic meter. What is a cubic meter? Okay, see that? See those windows behind in the room? Those 6 windows in the room? Take those out and make a big ass box out of them. Because isn't that about a meter at the bottom? If you think about each of those panes of glass, is that about a meter at the bottom? I'm not a European, so it looks a little bit more than a yard to me. So imagine taking one of those panels out. That's about a meter by a meter. Then take all 6 of them out. Don't tell the college. And then make them into a box. That's about a cubic meter. It's a lot of space. They're saying high pollen counts would be 12 pollen grains in a cubic meter of air. That does not seem like much. That doesn't seem like much at all. I mean, when I think about the crazy ass like spore and pollen blooms that Ben gets, the big ones I think of are juniper and ponderosa pine. The pine blooms and the juniper blooms. Those are the ones that get me. Oh my God. I'm just miserable for a month. I'm just constantly squirting nasal port up my nose and doing neti pot stuff. Neti pots are an allergen. You can probably all use them, don't you? Yes, they're like the great. You never. Oh, Billy, you gotta try it. You tried it?
When I was
You should try it. Seriously, it's like the greatest thing ever. And they sell this one at Costco. That's like a pressure. I forget. Neil Med is the company. It's a little squirt bottle. Oh, sweet Jesus. Oh, if I teach you nothing today, Neil Med in the springtime. Oh, so good. Sinus infection, same thing. Oh, anyway. 12 pollen grains per cubic meter. That seems like an insanely small amount of pollen. Please, Fiona.
Isn't it a scale though? Like it says there it's a scale.
But look, it is expressed in grains of pollen per cubic meter. So that scale is the grains of pollen per cubic meter. I mean, yes, it's a scale, but all they did, their scale is from 0 to 12. And the scale, they broke it into 5 equal pieces, literally.
Yeah.
0 to 2.4 is 2.4 wide, that's 2.4 wide, that's 2.4 wide.
Does that mean the maximum amount of pollen is gonna be 12 grains?
I think it's the average amount of pollen. See, that's what I think. Notice it says it's expressed in grains of pollen per cubic meter over a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
And then a pollen count is a measurement of how much pollen is in the air. This count represents the concentration of all the pollen in the air at a specific time. Tuesday or Monday is a huge 24-hour period. And in other words, I believe, at least from my experience of living in Central Oregon, that the wind blows at different speeds and in different directions depending on what time of day it is. Have you ever noticed this? Did you ever notice predominantly in Bend in the morning, do you know where the wind comes from? I'm a biker, so I know this very, very vividly. Where does the wind come from on average, typically, in Bend in the early morning?
The east.
No, not
a good
typically.
guess.
That was a good guess, though. The southwest. And then typically, by the end of the day, it has shifted to the northwest. I know this because I always have a goddamn headwind riding my bike to and from work. Always. And my buddy Doug, coming the other direction, always has a tailwind. And he makes sure to mention that. 15 years. He's mentioned it every goddamn day he sees me talking. How's it going? Shut up. But my point is this, Fiona. When they say Tuesday is 0.6, I'm guessing that's a predicted average. 0.6 grains per cubic meter on average over the whole day. Maybe certain times of day are higher, maybe certain times, because it's a whole 24-hour period. There's almost no wind at night, generally speaking, typically speaking. So again, this answers some of my questions, but not all of them still, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
What I was worried about is that is that it had been, that the scale was related but unrelated to the pollen count, and the pollen count is a different number.
Oh, totally. When they say the pollen count, like literally, that's just what this website is set up to do, the pollen count. But then, which pollen? Which plant's pollen are you counting right now, too? Notice how they kind of mention that right here, or all the pollen, or of one particular type, like ragweed. Like, does this graph shift during the big seasons like juniper, ragweed, ponderosa pine? I don't know. Again, the website is pretty vague in details. Like, this is the most detail I found on their website.
Yeah.
So again, the graph is kind of helpful, but not super helpful, if that's fair. Maybe that's fair. But I should go back to my doc and ask him. That guy retired. I can't go see him anymore. He was gone 10 years ago. I asked a new guy. He was adorable. He's an apprentice. I remember when I went in to get the test. So those of you that have had allergy shots, remember the test they give you to figure out what you're allergic to? They lay you face down on a table, and they put a grid on your back, and they prick you with everything that's like a common allergen. And I remember sitting there going, ooh, ooh, and then going, shit, that itches. And I remember the person, the nurse or whatever, coming in, and they kind of like lifted the sheet and then put it back down. And I was like, hey, Shirley, come here. You gotta see the Christmas tree on this guy's back. Because apparently I was allergic to every single thing except for sagebrush and plantain. That was it. There were like 42 things on my back I was allergic to, and 2 things I wasn't. Sagebrush and plantain. So hell yeah, sagebrush. Got a lot of that around here. But. Okay, so okay bar graph, not a great one? Yeah, okay. I mean, it definitely raises more questions, which I kind of like about graphs sometimes. If stats or presentations of stats actually raises questions, that's kind of a good thing, I think, because it makes you think about it more. As somebody who suffers allergies, I dig deeper. One of the things that my allergy doc taught me, I didn't know about this. He said, "What have you done to combat allergies in the past?" And I know I take Nasacort, Zyzol is another one that I'll take. I eat local honey. He's like, "Yeah, that's a common myth that local honey helps allergies." I'm like, "What?" Exactly, right? I said exactly. I said, "How dare you, sir?" You know what he told me? And I never thought about this. What are common things to be allergic to in Central Oregon? I named a couple of them, right? Juniper. Ponderosa blooms. What else are you allergic to very often in Central Oregon?
Grass.
Dust mites, maybe grass seeds. Yep, that's a big one in the valley, right? So grass seed, dust mites, juniper, ponderosa pine. Bees don't pollinate any of those things.
Yeah.
Bees don't pollinate them. This guy was so heartbroken. I keep bees in our backyard.
Yeah, but that's not, no.
No.
No, because that's not the only thing that touches those trees and then lands on the flowers where the bees are.
Say that again.
So there's other things that will, other insects that will touch those trees
Yes.
and whatever.
Yes.
On the ground, squirrels, everything.
Yes.
And then touch the flowers.
Bless you.
Well, let's be careful. Squirrels don't touch flowers very often. I get what you're saying, though.
There's a system to it. You know?
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. But the thing about it is when the concentrations are in 12 parts per cubic meter, the chance of those pollen actually hitting a pollinating insect that then generates honey later down the pipe shrinks away. I'm not saying it can't happen.
How do you know bees don't touch those trees?
Because they don't pollinate. They pollinate the flowers that they go after, like the purple salvia, catmint, iris, everything I'm not allergic to, of
You
course.
believe him then?
No, I don't believe him. I believe science. Like I actually, because I keep bees, I watch where they go. They do a lot of lavender pollination. They do a lot of clover pollination. They do a lot of dandelion pollination. None of these things are things we're allergic to. Like a dandelion, what does a dandelion spore look like? It's just big ass seeds with the umbrella. Like you're not sneezing because that's not getting up your nose. If it is, you got bigger problems with sneezing. So yeah, I mean that's the thing. Is like when he said that, I'm like shit. That's why it doesn't work. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's anecdotal evidence. It doesn't work for me. I still keep bees. I still love their honey. It's still tasty. But I can totally get his point. The stuff that's in that honey, I'm not ingesting the microdoses of what I'm allergic to. I totally get it. So I'm still gonna keep and enjoy their honey because it's delicious. But it made sense, and I was the same reaction Hillary. I was like, what?
Sucks.
I'm so heartbroken right now. But still, I still enjoy it. I still enjoy having the bees in the backyard. And you're helping the world by having pollinators doing their thing. Yes, please.
Is that why you had bees?
That's a good chicken egg question, and I don't know the answer to that. I think it was my wife's idea, and she generally has really good ideas where I have really bad ideas. So she generally, that was probably her idea, like, oh, we have a backyard now, let's put a beehive in it. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds awesome. So, and they're so cute. I mean, just watching, it was fun when Max was really young, watching the bees come back from pollinating and trying to figure out what was on their legs. Because they just get covered with pollen when they're pollinating. And you can kind of tell, like, if dandelions are in bloom really early. That's one of the reasons I love having the weeds in the yard, because that's one of the first sources of nectar for a bee that wakes up in the spring after they've been hibernating all winter. So it's kind of fun, like, he's like, Dad, yeah, it's iris. I'm like, I think you're right, buddy. So kind of a fun learning experience. Plus, it also, bees have kind of a bad rap, because I think a lot of people confuse bees with, like, yellow jackets. You know, a bee is a wonderful pollinating, you know, life-giving creature. Yellow jacket's just a little yellow and black asshole. So, I mean, like, having the bees in the backyard to be able to teach them, like, look, it's fuzzy. She's fuzzy and happy, and she's making food. And that shiny one over there, you can step on that one if you want. So, anyway. Okay, Dawn, this next one is for you. This one's for you.
Yay.
Yay. So, you asked the question earlier where you wanted the graph. You didn't like it because of the way the numbers were arranged. But I told you why I did it that way. Same reason that this one, I think, is done that way, because there's an order kind of implied by the calendar, the days in order. This one, the data on the horizontal axis isn't numerical anymore. So I chose literally to display it in decreasing consumption. Does that make sense?
I like it.
So this one's for you. This one's for you, absolutely. So take a look at this graph, see if you can see what it's showing.
Barrels of oil consumed daily
Thank you. By whom?
by those countries
Yes. Why did I pick those countries?
because they consume the most.
If you actually get a database of all the world's countries and how much oil they consume daily, these are the numbers that I pulled. There's the source right down there if you want to grab it yourself. Okay?
Look at U.S.
Why are you shaking your head back there? You're shaking your head. I love this. You're shaking. Tell me why you're shaking your head.
Just the United States.
Why? What's wrong with the United States?
A lot of things.
Okay, that was a loaded question.
Yeah.
Based on this graph, what's wrong with the United States?
We're oil thirsty.
We're oil thirsty. We are. We are definitely an oil thirsty culture, that's for sure. So much of where does our oil go?
In the water.
Why do we use so much? Where does it go? Where else does it go besides our cars?
Power generation.
We make power with it. I mean, not so much in this region of the country. Where does a lot of our power come from?
Dams.
Yes, Pacific Northwest. I bet you the power we're sucking off right now probably comes in large part from Bonneville, up on the Columbia. Quite a bit of our power comes from hydro projects in the Pacific Northwest. But there are places in the United States that don't have access to fast-ass moving rivers like we do. So a lot of times crude, coal. This is not coal, but there are other sources of energy. Nuclear, not quite as popular as figure out how to do all those waste rods. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason that we use so much. Okay, so can you think of a way? Is this graph unfair in any way? I don't mean logically unfair, but is there maybe something, another variable in this graph? Because this is literally, I just went to those countries, sorted them by biggest to smallest, and grabbed the top 10. So you got Mexico, South Korea, Russia, Canada, Germany, and blah, 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 blah. Is there any way this might be a little tiny bit unfair? This is a hard question to answer, because I'm trying to get you used to thinking about statistics with this graph. Is there any way it might be unfair? Hold that thought, I'm gonna give it. So I put the US as the first bar, China's the next bar, Japan's the next bar, and I made all the bars this wide. Is that really fair to do? Marissa, say it. There's something that's unfair is that not all these countries have the same number of people in them.
Ooh.
You see what I'm getting at? You see what I'm getting at? And this is one of those things that can slide by undetected. Like, oh yeah, the US is terrible because look at that bar, it's huge. And you gotta realize, this is kind of mind-boggling. That's 20 million barrels daily. Right, exactly. When you think about that, you're like, holy shit, daily. That's a barrel of oil is that big. You count on your first project, that's 5.6 cubic feet. That's a lot of friggin' fluid. It's a big ass chunk. We're going through 20 million of those a day as a country. However, there are 300 million people in this country. How about China? How about Canada? How about Saudi Arabia? So I did some more research, and I got the actual populations of those countries. Now, I didn't break it down by like Like I didn't take out the infants, which I probably should have done because infants, generally speaking, aren't using crude. They might be benefiting from using crude, but they're not using crude specifically. But I did a little more research, and here's how the graph changes if you adjust it by per capita. So in other words, instead of by country, you're looking at country each person. Here we go. Here's how it looks now.
Huh.
So this is if you break it down, average gallons in that country per person. So take 20 million barrels, convert that to gallons, and then divide that by how many people are in the country. Does that make sense here? I'm getting out with that. Hopefully that makes sense, my friends.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia.
Right, so now, what question do you think of? So now Dawn's looking at Saudi Arabia going, holy hell, what's the next question you think of?
How many people are in Saudi Arabia?
Well, or why are each of those people using almost 4 gallons of gas a day? That's what I want to know. Why? Why are Saudi Arabians using 4 gallons of gas a day? And the only answer I come up with is because they can. Because it's easy and it's cheap for them. It's easy and it's cheap for them. What would be a fun graph, and I haven't done this yet, Dawn, it would be fun, I'm going to have to do this for next term, is actually do the per capita graph of the 10 thirstiest oil countries and see, because I got a feeling, what's the country down in South America where gas is like 50 cents a gallon? Oh, shit, it's on the east side of South America, above Brazil. What's up there? Yes, I need a map. We need a map. South America. South America. It's up here. One of these, Guyana maybe. I was going to say Venezuela. It might be Venezuela. Cheapest gas, South America. Sorry. By country. Let's just see here. Oh, this is fun. This is a cool ass graph. Holy hell. Who's that? Venezuela, son of a bitch, right there.
Does it say 0.01
That
cents?
says 1 cent, and that is disturbing as hell. I know it's cheap, but well, and one of the reasons is Venezuela gets all kinds of crap by this current administration in Congress because they're constantly slamming Venezuela. You see what a socialist economy does to you, but yet they have a they refine a lot of gasoline in Venezuela, which means it's available to them quickly. Now, 1 penny, that's a little bit crazy. I'm not understanding these zeros that are down here in Venezuela. But the point being is I want to redo this graph with number of gallons these people are using per day. Now, you got me thinking about this now, but I appreciate it. So, who looks worse than us now?
Saudi Arabia?
Our neighbors to the north.
Oh.
Why are Canadians using so much damn gas? What the hell, Canada?
It's cold up there. They need heat.
Okay, that's a good answer. It's cold.
I don't know.
They make it heat.
Oh.
They've got a lot of it. They've got a lot of raw petroleum products in the ground. Do you know they actually supply us with most of our imports of crude oil? Everybody thinks Saudi Arabia gives us all of our oil, OPEC. It's Canada. Canada gives us like 40% of our crude, our raw crude imports come right down from Canada. So again, you've got these countries that I think have high access to it, therefore it's cheaper for their constituency, therefore they use more of it. That's my theory. It's a theory.
And then countries like high population.
Exactly. And then you got countries like China that just have a huge ass high population. I mean, yeah, they're the second thirstiest oil country on Earth, but they also have triple our population, right? Over 1 billion people. So you divide a number that's already half as big as ours by a number that's 3 times as big as ours, and that bar shrinks away pretty consistently. So per person, they're not using very much at all. But you see, what's kind of cool about this is the bar graph really lets that kind of pop, and we can see what's going on, which is nice. I like your idea though. I'm gonna go back and look at per capita and see where Venezuela's like 10 gallons a day or something like that. Okay. Here's a fun one. This is one I did about 10 years ago. Remember swine flu?
Yes.
It was all the rage about 10 years ago. Everybody had it. Apparently it was really bad because they had a hard time coming up with a vaccine for it. And then they ran out of the vaccine for it, and they had to figure out how to dilute the vaccines they did have. And that was a math problem in and of itself. They discovered that if you actually diluted it with saline, it was just as effective as full strength. So it was crazy. Swine flu was crazy. So anyway, there were a bunch of cases of it in Oregon, and here's what it looked like in Oregon. I was asked to do some math for the state of Oregon back then during swine flu. And they said here's what happened. They said, does this look weird to you? Or was something like that. Like, does anything look off with these numbers? And I'm like, well, I don't know. So I was like, I'm gonna start by doing this. So at the time that I looked at those H1N1 cases, I also looked at the population of Oregon. And I did this as a percentage of the population, so please take a look at this. In the Northwest, I used the same geographic things they did. If I remember correctly, they just took Oregon like a big rectangle and cut it in half and then cut it in thirds this way. Northwest, North Central, blah, blah, blah. These are the percentages of the people that live in Oregon by geographic region. 65% live in the Northwest, about 2% live in North Central, about 4% Northeast, 22, 7, and 1% is in the Southeast down there. Do you notice anything about the H1N1 cases when you compare it to the regions? Does anything jump out at you? And an answer could be like, no, they both are doing exactly what I thought they would do. In most cases are in the Northwest, where the most people are, right? And that kind of makes it. Anything jump out at you? Take a look at that. Take a look at those graphs for a little bit. See if anything jumps out at you. Because something jumped out at me, and I told them what I noticed. I never heard back from them, so I don't know if they did anything with the information or not. But Fiona, what do you notice?
400 seems a little bit not proportional the way the rest of them are set up, where it's like 78 is kind of close, 66, but so I'm looking at the numbers, right?
Yeah.
624 to 60, about 64%, and then like 20 to like about, yeah, like it seems kind of set lining up a little bit.
So if you look, you have to pick like a unit. The least populated area in Oregon is the Southeast.
Yeah.
And they had the least H1N1 cases, so it's kind of like, oh, that makes sense. I mean, you would expect, well, you would hope, I guess, fewer cases with fewer people. And then if you kind of go up from there, like the North Central region is the next like most populated region. It's got roughly twice the population as the Southeast. And they had roughly twice the H1N1 cases. And you kind of look at it proportional like that, like, oh, okay, like literally, I'm actually starting to see that. But then you notice something about the Southwest.
Like if that was 1,000 people, right?
Good.
219 of them would have had like 400, which just makes it, yeah.
Right. So in other words, how many times more people live in the Northwest than live in the Southwest? Approximately how many times more people? 3. That's approximately a 3-time multiplier, right? A bar graph helps us do that very quickly. So if the H1N1 cases were kind of happening uniformly proportionally, we would expect either more cases here or less cases here. Does that make sense? Because this is not 1/3 of this. So either there weren't enough cases up in Portland or there were too many cases down in, where the hell's down in the Southwest? Ashland, thank you. So I sent them a note, I'm like, hey, I pretty much said the exact same thing Fiona just said. I'm like, hey, I'm noticing that there's a disproportionate somewhere on the west side of the Cascades. I don't know if there was a little mini outbreak down there that you needed to get in front of. Never heard back. So I don't know what they did with my conclusions. But bar graphs help us see that. Can I do that in a pie chart? Can we do that in a pie chart? Absolutely. Would it be as good as this? I don't think so, based on what Fiona said earlier. The proportions are easier to see when they're vertical like this. There was a hand somewhere I thought that went up, maybe.
I was just gonna
Bella,
say,
please!
in the Southwest, nobody vaccinates or gets shots. That's like
Is that the thing? Really?
to like everything.
Are you shitting me?
It's like the most.
The southwest part of the state?
Biggest percent of people who aren't vaccinated in the whole country is
Are in southwestern Oregon?
specifically Ashland, yeah.
Holy hell, I didn't know that!
Specifically Ashland?
I learned something today!
Hippie town.
I wonder if that's tied!
Probably.
Somehow, holy hell!
I mean, if you looked
This
at
is
some
so-
more immunizations.
I'm thank you for teaching me something. I love learning stuff. This makes me so damn happy.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, I'm depressed too, but I mean, at the same time, I learned something new. So this is
You should do it on immunizations in general.
you should look it up. It's crazy.
shit.
Do you like that bar draw?
Yeah. shit. I like this. I know, I guess I still don't know to myself. Hang on, this is really good. Thank you. Damn, I had no idea. Is that like, that's well-known information?
Yeah, I lived there, so it was very well known.
But it's documented too?
Uh-huh.
So
Pretty sure it's
vaccination rates south. Is it just Ashland?
Yeah.
Ashland, Oregon has the highest percentage of children enrolled in kindergarten who have been exempted from receiving at least one vaccine.
In the state or in the country?
Um,
That's okay, I'm gonna look it up. I got it. I sent myself a note. This is fascinating to me. Thank you.
It's
Never known that.
I would say the majority of people.
Yeah, don't
that
vaccinate.
don't vaccinate.
So interesting. That is so, it's so interesting. I had no idea. I've only been to Ashland once in my entire life, so. But this is, thank you for, I love learning new stuff like this. And I love kind of seeing where it goes. Thank you. So good, so good. All right.
it's high, it's 25%.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I love learning this kind of stuff. I want to bring in a new idea about bar graphs. Bar graphs are wonderful. I love them. I love them for all the reasons y'all have brought up why you think they're clearer too. There is one thing you want to be careful about when you make them. I make these do-don't slides in this PowerPoint. It's a very long PowerPoint. It's going to take us till next class to get through. These do-don't, the do's always look the same. It pretty much says make sure your graph speaks for itself, make sure you've got good data, make sure that you break them up into into logical classes. I put one don't on here, and the don't says don't let your y or vertical axis start at something other than 0. And I'm going to give you an example of why you shouldn't do that. Okay, so here is an old article from the Broadside. This was taken from right around the time the Broadside stopped printing this is called the Broadside Online. I pulled the screen capture from their website, but I took the graph you're about to see from their actual print publication. So I'll give you the breakdown of this. They were talking about $4 per credit tuition hike next school year. Now you just absorbed one of these this year, went from 99 to 107, I think. So the Broadside always wrote about tuition increases. Why? Why does the Broadside? The Broadside is a student newspaper. Why does the student newspaper write about tuition increases? Because it matters to the students. Thank you. And because they're good statisticians, they include a graph. And here's the graph they included with the tuition hike of $4 a credit hour. So I want you to take a look at this. Okay. And first of all, make sure you can understand what the graph is showing you. It's a bar graph, which I love. Love it. And you don't have to know why 8 credits cost $528. But I want to make sure you understand why 8 credits now under the new tuition costs $560. Let's make sure that makes sense to us. Remember, it's a $4 per credit hour increase. So if you take 8 credits, and each credit is $4 more, how many more dollars is that going to be in total? 32. So you seeing that right now, my friends? That's going to be 32 bucks. If you take 12 credits, 4 times 12 is 48. Check my math. Add 48 to that, you get 840. If you're taking 16 credits, 16 times 4 is 64. Add 64 to that, you get that. Good so far. And then finally, 20 credits is going to be 80 bucks more, thank you. Add 80 to that, you get that. Okay, cool. So the numbers, the numbers kind of pencil out, if you will. What's wrong with the graph? Say that again. It's missing. I heard it's missing, and then I could.
It just looks like it's missing information.
Okay, what information? What? I love this, Dawn. Thank you. Tell me what do you think is missing? I love this. I love this.
I don't know what year.
Oh, you know what? That's a damn good point. I inadvertently clipped that when I took the picture of the graph. This was, oh my God, I don't remember what year this was. The year was in the article though, so it doesn't matter for this. I got a math problem with this graph, not so much an annual problem. What else is missing? What else is missing on this graph? What is? Go ahead. I hear Marissa.
It's going up by 4, but it doesn't show what 4 credits is.
Ooh. Oh, that's good. Cool. Let's figure it out. Maybe if we can. We know it goes up $32 there. So the previous 528, if we divided that by 8, we would know how much one credit is worth, right? Does that make sense? So we could figure that out. We could figure out what one credit was worth. By taking the 528 dividing it by 8, that would be what it used to be worth per credit. So we could include that. If you wanted, we could put that on the graph. Now they kind of hid that by putting old and new tuition as bars. Say that, Bella, go ahead.
I was just wondering why I was paying more than what's up there.
Well, this is an old graph compared to what you're paying. Yeah, this is old compared to what you're paying right now. This is when the broadside used to print their paper, which has not happened in a couple of years now. What do you notice, Fiona?
When you look at 528, it's like a size.
It's
Yeah, so if you look at the so draw lines, you know what I'm talking about.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What's this?
32.
Isn't that $32?
And it's a lot of, like, spatially, it's a lot of 528.
That, my friends, is $32. We just decided, right? If you have 8 credits, and each of the credits is $4 more than it used to be, that's $32 extra you're paying. So,
It's missing data, not literally, but it's hit. It's high.
oh yeah, if this is $32, let's take that ruler and come down here. That means this is 32. That means this is 32. That means this is just about $100.
But it's not.
If that's 32. But what is this actually? It's 528. What effect does this have on the graph? What COCC, what the broadside did with this graph, and I wrote them a letter, and they actually retracted the graph from the online article. I was so proud of it. I'm like, oh, yay! What effect does it have? I mean, let me ask you a different question. When you look at this graph, what number does your brain think is right there?
0.
Yes! What number is actually right there?